Recently, it's been shown that if you create stories, or at least clear instructions, you'll do better with vibe coding, as your LLM will have something to work with. But what if there's another way? What if, with the use of tools like Drawio, you can create a process diagram and use that process diagram? So here's an example. I created a very simple process diagram. I'm going to export it as a PNG, and we're going to use that as the main part of our project. So we now have the exported file, as you can see. We have a very simple prompt that says I would like to use this package as a baseline, and then add based on the process diagram. So I literally have 2 lines, and I'm going to use those with my Claude 4.5 coding engine with my Copilot GitHub. Now, you could use this theoretically with any supporting LLM, but this happens to be the one that I have from personal choice right now, and obviously mileage may vary depending on what you're using. But here's the example. We're going to go ahead and create a plan. So that plan will be based on what we've given it as input. Now, as you can see from the text file, there's not a lot of input for it to be going off. So it's either going to need to assume a hell of a lot, or it's going to need to read that file. So let's see what the output looks like. So in the output, you'll see that it's chosen to use SQLite as the connector. Now, here the question would be, well, where did it get SQLite from? Is it just a logical conclusion? Well, there's nothing in the text that says, hey, use SQLite, but here in the process diagram, you see the top box says use SQLite. So I'm reasonably certain it's read my process diagram, because also the following steps in terms of what else it should do is also written in their plan. So I'm going to go ahead and implement the plan, and whilst that's running, we're going to discuss what might be a practical use case for this. Now, you can implement business workflows using this technique, where if you can create a diagram of the business workflow, you can teach the LLM what it is you want to achieve. It also helps a lot because writing out a process in Word, or wording, rather than the actual process flow, doesn't really give you the same effect, and it can be difficult to show how steps go backwards in general text, and you end up writing these excessively long documents in order to explain everything. Another example might be if you're creating infrastructure as code, and in that scenario you might want to create networks, front ends, back ends, and if you need to write out all of those different steps, that again can be a very long document. Alternatively, we can create a document of what the infrastructure should look like, and it can write out the code based on that. So creating a diagram rather than creating clear set instructions can be another way of achieving the same result. It also means you can add visual layers on at a later point and ask it to add the missing content. A new way of coding, effectively, using diagrams and process flows rather than just clear text instructions, which can often get you better results. Now at this point, my model is finally coming to the end of its little project, and what would have normally taken something that was sitting on the back of my mind that I would have done in my spare time and hobbies and maybe done or maybe just completely forgotten about, took this particular example 11 minutes, including testing. So if you have an idea and you happen to have these tools available, it's a great way of speeding up those ideas and bringing them into a reality and deciding whether they make sense or if they go back to the drawing board and consider them a no viable. I hope this is a useful example of how you can do coding using LLMs and process diagrams rather than just user stories. Till next time.